Good evening. I'm calling the July 22nd, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education order per Government Code, Section 54950, ex equatur, and Education Code, Section 35140, ex equatur, at the District Educational Center at 1301 East Orange Thorpe Avenue, Placentia, at 5:01 p.m. Right now, comments at this time are going to be limited to closed session agenda items only. And if you would like to make a comment, please fill out a blue card. We will be adjourning to closed session in a few minutes for the purpose of discussing the following matters. 3.1, public employee discipline, dismissal, suspension, release, leave, assignment, non-reelection, non-reappointment, resignation, reinstatement pursuant to Government Code 54957, specifically discussing a resignation agreement of employee identified number 8181. 3.2, personnel matters, public employment appointment, employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. 3.3, conference with labor negotiations, Dr. Alan Muserino, Acting Superintendent, Joan Velasquez, Interim Assistant Superintendent, Administrative Services, Yolanda Mendoza, Acting Assistant Superintendent, HR, to discussing our unions, CSEA, APLE, and Plum. 3.4, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 or 3 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, one case, McAlinden versus PYLUSD. And it looks like we have one person wishing to speak, so they will be given 3 minutes.
Sam Majevich, please approach the podium.
My name is Sam Majevich. I'm speaking on the McAlinden case. It is in the interest of the PYLUSD to settle the case with Richard McAlinden and recover all the costs of this litigation from those culpable for the violation of Mr. McAlinden's rights. It is clear from McAlinden's complaint that among the most culpable individuals are former Superintendent Alex Chernis and former District Counsel David Huff. Chernis conspired with other district employees to violate the terms of McAlinden's employment contract, breach the duty of good faith and fairness, inflict intentional emotional distress, and wrongfully discharge Mr. McAlinden. Mr. McAlinden's case against the district is an extraordinarily strong one, and the costs of further litigation will surely impose upon PYL taxpayers greater financial burdens than an out-of-court settlement. In fact, one should estimate the cost of litigation as many multiples of that which Mr. McAlinden is seeking. The central matter in the McAlinden complaint against the district involves an elementary school principal meeting led by Dr. Chernis on November 30th, 2023. At that meeting, according to the complaint, quote, Dr. Chernis informed all principals that the district would no longer follow the site guidance process, unquote, as it related to student discipline. As superintendent in charge of student services, McAlinden oversaw student discipline. Chernis told the principals at that meeting that, quote, he did not care if a student hits, kicks, or punches a staff member. It is a part of the teacher's job, and it is your job as principals to make them, the teachers, understand that, unquote. Former Superintendent Chernis thus expressed clear contempt for the safety and well-being of teachers, staff, and students, as well as utter disregard for the collective bargaining agreements with both classified and certificated staff. Not only is McAlinden willing to testify to this under oath, but so are several principals who attended this November 30th meeting. When McAlinden refused to comply with Chernis's directive to allow students to physically abuse staff, the former superintendent began a campaign of personal harassment against McAlinden. There are numerous witnesses willing to testify to the details of this harassment campaign. The stress from this systematic harassment began to take a toll on McAlinden's health, and he eventually succumbed to a cardiac incident that forced him to take medical leave on December 12, 2023. While McAlinden was on medical leave, Superintendent Chernis changed the title and framework for the position McAlinden had held. Once McAlinden was ready to return to work, Superintendent Chernis placed McAlinden on paid administrative leave with the understanding that his contract would not be renewed. It should be noted that McAlinden had received only superior performance reviews during his tenure in the district, even from Superintendent Chernus. While McAlinden had no desire to leave the district, he understandably sought employment elsewhere during this campaign of harassment. The fact that McAlinden understandably sought employment elsewhere in this context does not exonerate the district
Thank
and
you,
its
Mr.
former
Maevich.
superintendent from culpability.
That concludes our comments.
Okay. With no other comments, we'll adjourn to closed session at 5:06 PM. Okay, everybody ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're going to reconvene at 6:40 PM. We have some reports out of closed session. The board met and confirmed in closed session to approve the resignation agreement of employee ID 8181 assigned as a music teacher. The motion was made by Mrs. Anderson, the second by Mrs. Quintero, and it was a 5-0 vote. Also, the board met and confirmed in closed session to approve general liability claim number 638681 for the amount of $300,000. The motion was made by Mrs. Quintero, the second by Mrs. Buck. The vote was 3-1 with one abstention. The ayes were Buck, Anderson, Quintero. The no was Mrs. Blades, and the abstention was Mr. Frazier. But the motion carried. And that is what happened in closed session. Way. So, can you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let the record show that all board members are present. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Musarino for a recommendation.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of our community. I am recommending to move item 19.7 from the consent calendars, our HR certificated board report, so that we could publicly recognize our newest principal joining our team.
Okay. And then, yeah, so we need a motion as amended.
Are we making a motion to amend the agenda?
The
Okay.
agenda. And,
Okay.
and the,
And are we moving that up?
and
That's
this, and the,
separate.
yeah, and to amend the certificated report as.
Okay, so I make a motion, we approve the July 22nd, 2025 Board of Education agenda as presented and amended for the certificated human resources report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck, a second by Mrs. Quintero. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, so we're going to move up 19.7 first. If there's anyone here that wants to make a comment on the HR report, please let us know and we will move that up. I don't believe any of these are for that. Okay. So hearing no comment for that, we need a motion to approve the amended certificated report.
I'll make a motion, we approve the amended certificated report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck, a second by Mrs. Quintero. Are there any questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed, so Motion carries 5-0, and I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Mendoza.
This is so much fun. It's a great part of my work. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our new principal of Glen Knoll Elementary, Erica Kadam, who is sitting right here, and I'll bring her up in a minute. Erica attended as a Glen Knoll Elementary student, and I have her little picture here of when she attended Glen Knoll. You're just as cute as you were. She graduated from Esperanza High School. She also graduated from Cal Poly Pomona with a BA in English. She is currently working on her doctorate at Cal Poly Pomona in the area of educational leadership. She has been an English teacher at Esperanza High School, as well as the ASB Activities Director. She has also been summer school principal at El Camino High School. Currently, she has served as assistant principal at the Yorba Linda High School since 2022. Her leadership framework is relationships and results. She would like to serve her community and empower her colleagues. We had a really great time with the interviews that we conducted with her, and she impressed all of us all the time. So please come forward and just say a few words.
Good evening, President Anderson, Board of Trustees, Dr. Musarino, and Executive Cabinet. I would like to extend my most sincere gratitude for the trust that you have placed in me. To serve our district as principal of Glen Knoll Elementary School is an honor, it is a privilege, and it is a responsibility that I embrace with commitment and a deep sense of purpose. I already recognize Glen Knoll as an exceptionally special place, one defined by its dedicated staff, engaged families, and inspired students. It is a community that truly lives the core values of our district, and one I am lucky to again be a part of. I am excited to build upon Glen Knoll's strong foundation with compassion, care, and a genuine heart for our students. I cannot wait to connect with and learn from the incredible Glen Knoll team as we continue this important work together. Thank you once again for this opportunity. I am truly humbled, and I look forward to our continued partnership in supporting all of our students. Thank you.
We're very excited to have you, Principal Kadam. Okay, we will now move on to our public comment announcement. Public comment cards are available in the foyer. Cards must be completed and turned in prior to the designated time for public comment. Provide a maximum of 3 minutes per person. If translation is needed, an additional 3 minutes will be given. Please let us know. If we know ahead of time, we can ensure we are prepared. Civility policy, Education Code 220 prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nationality, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or any other characteristic that is contained in the definition of hate crime set forth in Section 422.55 of the Penal Code, including immigration status. Additionally, if there are any disruptions or interference of the board's ability to conduct the meeting, the disruptive parties will be given one warning. If the disruption continues, you'll be informed that the board president has found you disruptive in violation of Penal Code Section 403, Education Code Section 32210, and the board president will order you removed from the meeting under Government Code 54957.9 and 54957.95. If removing one or several disruptive parties does not restore order, the board president will exercise their authority to clear the room in accordance with Government Code 54957.9. And it looks like we have 2 people wishing to speak, so each speaker will have 3 minutes.
Oh, you're going to do it now? You got minutes first,
Okay,
and then my report, and then we go from there.
okay, perfect. So, moving on to 10.1.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the meeting of June 17th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck, a second by Mr. Frazier. Any comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 24th, 2025 special meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Frazier and a second by Mrs. Blades. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay. Now we are to public comments. Do we have? Oh, Superintendent. You're first. You win.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Some wonderful things that I'd like to share related to the great work of our students and, of course, our instructional leadership team. So PYLUSD students continue to excel in advanced placement coursework. In 2025, students took 5,278 AP exams, which is a 5.2% increase over last year, and a 17.5% increase since 2023. That's absolutely outstanding, improving, increasing access. Even more impressive, our pass rate rose to 91.2%. So that is something to be extremely proud of, and to our students and our staff. That's well above state and national averages, by the way. These gains are attributed to expanded access to AP courses across our comprehensive high school, strategic support systems for students, and the continued efforts of teachers and site leaders to build a strong culture of academic excellence. It's just everybody sitting here on this dais, as well as all the people who make our success so wonderful to be able to celebrate. More good news, national recognition for Valencia High student. Congratulations to Irene Pan from Valencia High School, selected as one of just 112 delegates. She's one of 112 delegates and only one of two from California to attend the prestigious 2025 National Youth Science Camp in West Virginia. Irene will join top STEAM students from across the U.S. and Latin America for a transformative summer of learning, leadership, and global connection. Congratulations to Irene and the Valencia team. And finally, we're proud to continue our partnership with the Nixon Library and Museum. 8 outstanding students from 5 of our high schools were selected for competitive internships in education, communications, marketing, and event planning. It's a 6-week program that gives students real-world experience in a nationally recognized settings. And that concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay. I think we have a few more blue cards coming. Oh, there's another one. So 4. Okay, 4 people wishing to speak, so each will be given 3 minutes, and if you want to call them up. Dr. Musserino?
Okay. I'm going to call out all 4. Please feel free to come and sit in the first row. Sam Mayovich, Leslie Alexander, Diane Hansen, and Dave Radlauer. And Mr. Mayovich, you may approach the podium, sir.
On June 27th, trustees Frazier and Blades gave an 80-minute interview to Madison Klofstadt Minor discussing their, quote, common sense, unquote, responses to what they see as the impact of progressive policies on California education. About half of the interview time focused the issue of what they define as the threat of, quote, biological boys, unquote, in girls' sports. The conversation culminated with the speculation that NBA superstar LeBron James could undergo gender transition and extend his dominant basketball career by competing as a female in the WNBA. If this conversation represents common sense, then what is lunacy? Common sense and scientific reality often stand in stark opposition. According to common sense beliefs, the Earth is considered a flat, stationary object at the center of the universe with celestial bodies revolving around it. Scientific reality, however, informs us that the Earth rotates on its axis at around 1,000 miles per hour and hurtles around the sun at a speed of approximately 67,000 miles per hour. At the end of the 18th century, common sense caused people in England to resist the efforts of Edward Jenner to infect people with the relatively mild cowpox virus to confer immunity from the deadly smallpox virus. Since the language of science at the time was Latin, the Latin-based word for cow, vacca, is the derivation of our word vaccination. Through both persuasive and coercive governmental measures requiring vaccinations, the last known case of smallpox occurred in 1977. In the final analysis, the reality of science prevailed over the illusions of common sense. Due to widespread misinformation associated with certain political ideologies held by trustees Blades and Frazier, diseases like measles, polio, whooping cough, and tuberculosis are reappearing. Common sense indicates that a baby born with a penis is a boy and a baby born with a vagina is a girl. Science is, as usual, more complicated. Transgender and intersex identities result from complex genetic, hormonal, and environmental factors. Although XX and XY chromosomes are generally definitive, numerous exceptions exist. Variations in the metabolic processing of steroids among individuals can result in a diverse range of phenotypes, gender expressions, and sexual orientations. Some people with two X chromosomes can have male physical traits. Thus, common sense alone cannot fully capture the diversity and complexity of humanity. Trustees Blades and Frazier, please stop using the meaningless terms biological boys and biological girls as it relates to gender identity assigned at birth. It is a political slogan designed to appeal to the uninformed. Moreover, it is deadly nonsense because it causes young people who are not heteronormative to question their very place on this earth. The language you use to describe transgender people is not only unscientific and deadly, it also violates California law.
Thank you, Mr. Maevich. Leslie Alexander.
While I appreciate the challenges OCSCS seeks to address, the proposed model, which removes teachers from their classrooms more than 30 instructional days per year, is excessive and ultimately not in the best interest of students. 30 days is the equivalent of over a month and a half of lost classroom time. The number does not count for absences due to illness or personal leave. Research is clear. Chronic teacher absences, regardless of the cause, are associated with lower student achievement, especially in core subjects like math. Studies show that once a teacher misses more than 10 instructional days annually, student performance begins to decline. At 30 days or more, the negative impact becomes far more pronounced. Even the most capable substitute teachers cannot replicate the relationships, consistency, or instructional depth that students receive from their regular teacher. The consequences go beyond academics. Excessive teacher absences can weaken student-teacher relationships, decrease student motivation and engagement, lower student attendance, and contribute to increased behavioral issues. Teacher collaboration is vital for professional growth and improving instruction. However, it should be implemented in ways that minimize disruption to classroom learning. Viable alternatives might include scheduled late start or early release days, shared prep periods within the school day, and occasional compensated collaboration time outside of instructional hours. If we are serious about student success, we must prioritize what matters most: a consistent, present, and empowered teacher in every classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie Alexander. Diane Hansen, please approach the podium.
Thank you. I'm retired from a career in public education as a teacher, special educator, and an administrator on both the site and district level. As a principal, I strongly believe in teachers collaborating in PLCs. My teachers had time each week for such while students received media and music instruction outside of the classroom. Looking at the board item that is on tonight's agenda, granting the charter a full day of release for teachers, I understand the need, but given the uncertainty of all the educational funding, including the elimination of the U.S. Department of Education, It would be remiss of the board to approve funds of this sort. As a previous speaker just said, there are alternative ways. Yes, the teachers need the time to meet. Yes, we as educators did that a lot of time on our own time. They also need time on paid time. But we need to really be very frugal with the limited funds that are coming our way, as we don't know exactly what those are going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hanson. And our final commenter, Dave Radlauer.
The material revision on the agenda this evening simply makes no sense. The 5 of you have repeatedly stated that you support the charter. Why exactly would Ed Services recommend you approve this revision? What exactly is the partnership with the district referenced in the staff recommendation? Why exactly do they term the fiscal impact as, quote, dependent on board action? If adopted, this revision will help seal Oak's fate, and not in a good way. First, we must ask, why is this material revision necessary? If the charter can afford this expense directly from its ADA funds, such a revision is superfluous. As written, the revision itself is meaningless and appears only intended to force the district to fund an element of their model they simply cannot afford. That is dangerous. The language of the supporting documentation seems intentionally ambiguous. The plans are not yet complete, and the supporting report seems to rely on a poll taken of the staff requesting the revision. 88.6% of the Oak staff favors weekly professional development time. Quite frankly, I'm surprised the number was that low. This is a luxury not afforded to any other school in the district, and for good reason. The cost, both in dollars and loss of direct face time, is unsustainable. The charter school, as originally designed, appears to have some very serious fiscal problems. Recall its encroachment on the district in its first year of operation was over $800,000. This is not a problem of support, it's a design flaw. Perhaps it can be reconstituted, but is adding a new expense at this juncture a wise move? There's nothing preventing the charter school from using their ADA funds to support this plan if they can afford it. If they can't, the expense becomes an additional encroachment on the district, as we may not allow a dependent charter to operate at a deficit. That model will only last until the expiration of the charter, at which point the district will have to evaluate its financial viability before considering renewal. If the documentation shows a consistent encroachment on the district, the charter will simply fail. It appears this request for material revision is nothing more than a request for funds in excess of Oak's ADA allotment. If such is the case, couldn't this be considered a gift of public funds? If the model doesn't work, fix it in a way that makes the program sustainable. It appears that Oaks wants to act like a charter when it comes to control, but revert to a quasi-magnet when they run short of funds. This is an unsustainable model, particularly when the district is running an 8-figure deficit, and it is patently unfair when these additional funds will come directly from the rest of our district schools who are being forced to endure direct academic cuts while the charter wants to expand professional development time. If that time is actually needed, consider the possibility that this is a major flaw in the model that needs to be addressed more responsibly. Throwing money at the problem is not the answer. Let's get more creative and find a way to make this commitment work. If you truly support the long-term sustainability of the charter, you must vote against this revision, which will only contribute to its ultimate demise.
Thank you, Mr. Radlauer. That concludes our comments, Madam President.
Okay, we're moving on to general function 13.1. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion, we grant the material revisions requested by Orange County School of Computer Science, approving the charter as so revised with July 22, 2025 as the effective date of the revised charter, and adopt the attached board resolution number 2504.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck and a second by Mr. Frazier. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Musarino.
Thank you, Madam President, and hello again, everyone. So we want to share just the experience that we had, as well as the process that was undertaken to get to this point. So we'd like to start with our legal team before we get to our lead petitioner. to talk about process, particularly related to the staff report and the proposed revisions. Suki?
Good evening, everyone. So wonderful to see everybody after a long time. So tonight, for the board's consideration, is the material revision of the OCSCS charter. This was a revision that was submitted by the staff at the charter, and the proper procedure to go through a material revision of a charter petition that's been approved is to have the material revision presented, a public hearing held on that, staff report prepared and posted 15 days prior to today's meeting, and then the action taken by the board. If the board does not if the board does not approve the material revision, then the charter petition stands as it is until such time as it comes up for renewal, or until such time as the board takes alternate action to revise it. So I believe that there's a presentation that the staff of OCSCS wants to make to explain the rationale for the decision. And with a dependent charter, the governing board is the charter board, and of course, the governing board does make the decision as to whether to grant a material revision to the charter or not. I'm available, of course, at any time to respond to any questions, but I do believe that they wanted to make a presentation, but if there's any questions that the board has before that presentation, I'm happy to respond.
What's the impact? I mean, obviously, if we approve it, then the changes go into effect. If it's not approved, what happens?
If it's not approved, then the additional time that's requested will not be provided to the staff that's there.
But will it go back to the original? It'll go back to the original charter.
Yes.
And that original design, correct?
Yes.
So it'll essentially stay the same?
So from what I understand, and I think that the staff has been working hard on how to implement this request, there are tweaks that were made to the calendar, there were tweaks that were made to the process that's used for collaboration, and there's a chart that's in the charter petition right now that talks about the meeting times and this and that. So that would be the chart that would continue to remain, as opposed to the way that the staff wants to implement this.
All right, because from my understanding right now is because of all of this chaos that's come from the district, that they don't even have a master schedule right now. So, I mean, that's what I'm just asking, is that I guess we'll wait for the lead petitioner to come up and speak, but if it was either going to kind of be similar, then you would think that we would have been able to go on with, and they could have put a master schedule together. I mean, they've just been in limbo for months now.
From what I understand, the staff has worked really hard, and I think we really want to commend them for that, in working with the uncertainty, which obviously is difficult, but also recognizing that the board wanted to grant this. At the study session, there was a lot of discussion about what it is that the staff wanted to do, so I think that they've been able to take that into consideration during the last few weeks when creating their schedule, and I think that as I think one of the speakers said, 86% of the staff is amenable to the new schedule. I think there were one or two people that weren't part of that 86%, and it was because those individuals said, I actually don't need that much time. So it wasn't that they didn't like the proposal, it was that they felt that they didn't need that additional time.
But when the district changed the stuff and we had to come back to this and the no master schedule and all the chaos, it was because it wasn't done appropriately by the district. So tonight, this is the proposal, and it's basically the schedule, professional development and the bell schedule.
Yes.
But nothing else. So the programs can't be moved. All of the things that the district was doing that was in violation of the charter contract, it's all going to stay the same. But from what I'm hearing is we could have almost gone forward with the master schedule and not be sitting here in July, because we're losing kids from that because of what's happened here. So we could have probably proceeded forward a little bit more from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the goal was to reduce the expense as well. So under the leadership of Dr. Gray and the team and lead petitioner, Mr. Sykes, they were tasked to work with their faculty to determine how we could still ensure the integrity of the charter and the program as designed, while at the same time significantly reduce costs. So that really, as far as the master schedule, the shell of it is in place, and that
But
will
it's not
continue to roll
permanent,
over.
and the issue is it didn't start, the timing wasn't handled correctly, which is why we're here in July. They should have been handled differently so that we didn't have to have them not knowing what was going on so that we didn't lose students. So unfortunately, I think it was handled at the district level wrong.
Right.
And,
That's
and
why
you know,
we're here.
and once again, I'm going to call because the stuff that was going on at this school site, moving of programs, moving of all this, we've put people under investigation for this type of thing. And so right now we're dealing with selective investigation. So once again, I am calling for an investigation into the district personnel who did this to this school. We have to have accountability because we're all sitting here in this July board meeting because we violated the charter petition. We violated all kinds of board policies. We violated all kinds of stuff. And yet we sit here and we are just, oh, we're going to investigate this person, but we're not going to investigate this person. And it's just crazy. It's crazy what's going on.
Just to clarify what you had said before, Suki, in a previous meeting, that ultimately we're the board and we're the decision makers for the charter school. So a revision necessarily wasn't needed if we all agreed and we all agreed to the process, correct? Like we didn't have to have a formal revision. So the changes could be made without.
So, as we've discussed before, the idea of what is a material revision isn't really defined in the law. There's only two instances that are really defined in the law, and that is to change grade levels or to change the location of the school. As the governing board, you could make a decision or you could delegate that authority to someone that's on your cabinet to make that initial determination. Does this constitute a material revision? And sometimes we call those administrative decisions. And then when that administrative decision is, yes, this constitutes a material revision, then it's brought up to the decision maker to make that determination. Sometimes it is the individual that the authority has been delegated to who says, no, this doesn't rise to that level, so we don't have to take it back to the board. The board hasn't delegated that authority, and so I think in moving forward, and especially when the second set of the board reading, the second reading of the board policies takes place, that could be something that you could put into your board policy to make that determination. But it is something that, unless such time as the board has delegated that authority to someone else, and they're able to make that administrative decision, the board would initially have to make a determination, does this constitute a material revision? If so, do you want to approve that material revision?
And then also, would you say too that an effect that had on it and the timing was a changeover in administration as well?
Yes. I mean, I think that there was a big learning curve. Let's just put it that way.
Well, it was just missed.
Right, but I mean, if we had a consistent administration going through the whole time, then it could have been addressed sooner. But with transitions going over.
Right, but it's July, and it's a pretty basic part of having a charter. I understand that
But we
there's a learning
started this
curve,
process in April, May?
which it should have been started earlier.
Which it should have been way earlier.
The transition over with administration.
I mean, you can try and make excuses for it, but it didn't happen right, and we're here in July.
You can try to make excuses as to why you're not investigating people and holding them accountable.
So there were questions asked why we were even having the study session before, and that nobody wanted to have the study session, but we had asked for the study session, but now it wasn't early enough. So let's just move ahead and hear from our presenter on what they've come up with as their revisions.
And I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sykes, please, and we have a presentation, I believe, ready to go. Matt, are you over there at the controls? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you because I know this is an odd time to meet. It's not something that, as a teacher, I would expect to have to do in the middle of the summer. But in particular, thank you, Dr. Musserino, for this opportunity. And thank you to the trustees that were willing to meet today. And I really see this as not so much, I'm not here to argue a point or to convince anybody of anything. What I'm really trying to do is explain the why behind what we're doing and our quest, all right? So what you can see on the screen is basically the topics that I'd like to discuss very briefly. We did have a closing meeting. What are our professional days? What do they look like? What do we do exactly on those professional days? And we're going to reflect back a little bit on 2024, 25, and then our needs for 25, 26. And the proposed charter revisions, which really does focus on the Bell schedule And is my understanding that at this point we don't have a bell schedule. We can't schedule students. That's what I've been told. So we're waiting for a decision. That's the way that's been explained to me. And granted, I'm not an administrator, so I'm not in the office speaking to the principal and the vice principal and discussing these things, but that's my understanding. So we did have a meeting on June 13th, which is the last Friday of the school year. And what's really remarkable about that is that it's the last Friday of the school year and we've got the entire staff in a room for an hour. You know it's important when you can get everyone to do that, when they're all looking to close out their classrooms and go home for the summer. And that's something that's remarkable. It really does show a level of unity of purpose. It shows a willingness to sacrifice considerable time when many of them actually had to clean out their classrooms and leave because they had been given pink slips. And finally, it shows a common understanding of the significance and necessity of the collaboration days. So it wasn't just a statement of we want that time to ourselves. This is a time that we spend in collaboration with each other for the entirety of the day. So what do we do on those collaboration days? This is basically what I would refer to as true PLC work. As much as PLCs are discussed obviously within the district, and we have them at schools on those early release Wednesdays. What we do on these collaboration days is really the PLC work that we receive in training through the district, but is near impossible to actually implement with the time you're given, and that is 1 hour. So for instance, we use assessment data to design lesson plans that specifically target skills in each subject area. We align lesson plans in each grade level to ensure that all students are receiving equal access to needed instruction and preparation for assessments. And that alignment is key. We design assessments that accurately assess student skills based on the content area in each subject. And then we collaboratively grade assessments to ensure that all students receive an objective report of accomplishment and supportive feedback on each assessment. This is all research-based. And it's not because I received poor training that over the last 15 years of being trained multiple times in PLC, it's not the poor training that I received. The problem is, can you do all of this in an hour on a Wednesday? It's really difficult to imagine that anybody could accomplish even one of those bullet points on any given Wednesday in an hour. And so the PLCs that have been part of what we've been doing, right? These are really true professional learning communities, in a sense. Because, see, if teachers get together on a Wednesday and they try and compare data, the question is, what data are they going to compare? They've all given different tests. They're at a different place in the curriculum. There's nothing to compare. And so you really can't analyze student progress unless you've got the common assessment, you've given the assessment on the same day, you've all graded the assessment in time enough to sit down together and then to look at that data and say, wait a minute, we're having a problem. Students are not getting this idea or that idea, this skill or that skill. That's really what the PLCs are about. That's what we've been told for many, many years we're supposed to be doing. But unless we have teachers actually doing that kind of work, and the question is, well, how can they ever create that common assessment, right? Agree to the skills that are supposed to be assessed, and then get them all graded in a way that when we can come back the next meeting, we can actually compare that data and then adjust and align our lessons to now really put the students in a place where they can recover from wherever it is that they've fallen short. And that's really the significance of these professional days. In addition, the teachers were provided with an opportunity to spend time. You can see it on the screen. It's called The Visible Learning, the Illustrated Guide to Visible Learning. We were provided with this book, and we used it for professional development. So we spent 30 minutes on every professional day simply reading this book and analyzing what was in it, agreeing to implement some of the practices that were in it, and then to report back the next week as to what we had seen. So in a real sense, we're not just simply doing the PLC work, we're doing professional development that we're guided using this text. Now this text is rather significant. This is actually a text that exposed us to years of research that includes more than 2,100 meta-analyses, 130,000 studies, and it included over 300 million students. It's a rather significant test. And the fact is that these teachers that actually left the school, one of the things they looked to and they pointed at was they had that to take with them. They knew the value of it, and we were using it on a weekly basis. So in my opinion, the professional learning days at OCSES in year one have really been a master class in PLCs. It's not only what we were taught for years, we've actually been able to do it, and we've actually seen results from it. And it's been tremendous. It's certainly not wasted time. It's certainly not wasted time. Now, I've talked about it from the benefit of the teachers, but I want to reassure you that there's something else behind this, and that is the students are still benefiting from it. What we're going to propose tonight really is something that I think allows us to see the benefit at both ends. All right? I'm not going to try and make an argument for last year and say that many electives were the solution to the problem, but I am going to say that I think that what we're looking at for next year is something that is really powerful for kids as well as teachers. So this particular slide is really to help you understand, and I want to say thank you to Dr. Gray, because this image was actually something I stole from what he created for the study session. But the idea of the image is that innovation really requires continuous improvement over time, and that in the first couple of years of any endeavor, changes are tremendous. Changes are dramatic. And really, we're anticipating a minimum of 3 years, and perhaps 5 years, to get to the point where the changes that we're making are very minor, they're very slight, almost probably imperceptible to most people, right? But we expect in the first couple of years, the changes are going to be rather dramatic. And we've already seen that in the first year, just in the discussion of the schedule, right? But also this whole discussion about mini electives and how those are done and how we are provided and allowed for to have that professional development. So the proposal, the material revision proposal, basically is the following. A student will spend 55 minutes a day, 4 days a week in any given class for a total of 220 minutes on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then 46 minutes on a given Wednesday. That's 266 instructional minutes per week per student. All the other middle schools in Placentia-Yorba Linda provide 255 minutes. We're going to be providing 266. This is 10 minutes more than what other schools provide. It's 15, this last year we were providing 15 minutes more instruction. Minutes of instruction. I mean, we're still working the same number of hours per day. We come in to work at the same time, we leave work at the same time. But a lot of this has to do with a 6-period day. When you allow for the 6-period day and you can lengthen the periods, then the amount of instructional time increases. And that's really where the impact occurs. Students aren't learning and losing instructional time. They're gaining it, right? And well, why is that? What's happening on that one day of professional development? Somebody made the argument, teachers are not there. And granted, no, teachers, the classroom teacher is not in the classroom. But who steps in is somebody who's on campus on a regular basis, knows those students, and is actively involved. And so the students do know those people, right? They're connected to those people. And we as teachers, we're still on the campus. We're not absent from the campus. As a matter of fact, in my situation, I'm going to be directly across the hallway from my classroom. So I'm going to be very much involved in what goes on in that classroom, despite the fact that I'm in a professional development. So what do students do on those professional collaboration days? So first of all, there's going to be no longer these mini electives. Instead, we're going to have fully credentialed teachers who push in. We will have one, we call them learning facilitators, because of the fact that we're referring to them as a resident sub or as a long-term sub gives students the wrong idea. That's the only reason why we use a different term, okay? We will have to have one of those, but we're going to have 3 other teachers on campus that are going to actually be doing this work. So they're fully credentialed teachers that are employed by the district. Students do the following. They're going to be introduced to lessons or assignments. So we may have introductions to something rather than the middle of it, right? They can finish a lesson or assignment. They have time to get support as they work independently or as they collaborate on an assignment. They can be led in class discussions on topics related to that class or ones that are school-focused, such as expectations, events, and so on. They can be led in leadership and community service activities, and that's partly because of the fact that the people that we're going to be utilizing for that push-in, both of them are actually ASP teachers, and they don't have full schedules. Since they don't have full schedules, what are they going to do the rest of the day? So we're going to use them to push into the classrooms, and then they can actually use that time to encourage students in terms of ASP activities, leadership, right, and service to school. And then we can also provide them with time, right, and direction to implement AVID skills. And as an AVID coordinator in my school and working closely with the AVID students, and as an AVID teacher at Bernardo-Yorba before we became OCSCS, this was part of my regular classroom activity, right? But now we can, as a school, implement those skills within those time periods. So that period where we have teachers collaborating is not lost time. It's additional time. It may not be entirely focused on curriculum, right? But it is an opportunity for something that's also very powerful. We've got a system of full inclusion. We've got students who have, IEPs and 504s, and they can't finish assessments in time within the class period. They need to be pulled out. Now, are they going to pull them out and just have them miss class during a regular day? Or can we, on the collaboration days, have those students pulled from class to get the services that they need when they're not missing as much, right? They stay there for the introduction to the lesson, and when it moves into perhaps something that is based on ASP, or if it's something that's like AVID skills, that's when they're removed from the classroom, they're taken, and they are given the opportunity to finish an assessment so that it doesn't impact their education. And then they're brought back into the classroom very smoothly when the teacher returns the next day. So there's a benefit there for those kids that are struggling the most, that need more time. They need to have the extra time. And that includes the ELD students who are struggling with the language. What we do in history class is something that is labor intensive for the students as much as it is for the teachers. And that is all their assessments are handwritten. They're all handwritten, multiple pages. And so students spend an awful lot of time thinking about their writing as they're doing it, as they're answering questions. Right? We are doing our best, and we need the time to make a lot of modifications to the assessments that we give. They are very tiring for us. At the end of the year, the last test that I collected as an 8th grade teacher of history took me 12 hours to correct. That's 12 additional hours at home and on weekends to get that assessment corrected. Why? Because at the end of the year, we are not teaching the same all year long. We started off with low-level questions in September and October. By the time we get to June, we are asking very high-level questions. Student answers were not a paragraph, they were a page and a half. A page and a half of writing, 2 questions, and I had to grade them all. And the other teachers are coming back to me saying, this is, we've got to do something to change this. And I agree. And we've got to make those changes. We've got to have the time to make those changes. Otherwise, I'm afraid that we might lose very good people because they can't do the work. And I want you to understand something, that the young man that was, and I call him young man even though he was 42, that was in the classroom next to me, came from a high school where he was teaching AP history and AP economics. And he admitted to us, flat out admitted, I've never worked this hard in my life. And I said, what is it, you're teaching middle school? Is that the problem? It's not a bunch of AP kids and they're not cooperative? Because no, the grading is just, it's huge. It's beyond what I've ever done before in AP classrooms. What we're demanding of kids is tremendous. And they're stepping up and they're accomplishing great things. But without the time to do the grading, the time to collaborate, the time to create the assessments, to create more efficient assessments, we're not sure that we can continue to do this work. And we really do think that it's a positive benefit to not just the school and the students, but it's a shining light. It's a sort of a city on a hill in the district, something that everyone can point at with pride and say there's tremendous things being accomplished. And we really do want to look forward to a day, and we talked a lot about this with Dr. Gray when he was interim principal. We look forward to the day when we can share with the other schools in the district what we're doing. We want them to come in and to observe what we're doing. We want them to be able to talk to us as lead teachers and understand the process. Because if it really is good, why keep it? Why keep it to ourselves? We want to share it. But it's time consuming. And if we can get through the first 3 to 5 years and we can make those adjustments and get it to a point where it really is fine-tuned, then we can look at the possibility of just eliminating these days or perhaps minimizing them in terms of every other week or every 3 weeks, right? Where we've now got what we need to in terms of the logistics and the how-to all ironed out, all worked out. But we are literally babes. We're like little babies here. We're just beginning to crawl as teachers to understanding what this does and how it works and how to do it in an efficient way. And we still need a lot of time to make those adjustments. And that 86% wasn't just, again, it wasn't, understand, half those people that voted aren't there next year. They came to that meeting and they willingly sat there and they all agreed. This can't be done without that time. And we're not just asking for time to sit at our desks and grade, because one of the things we recognize is we didn't get a lot of grading done in those days. We got mostly planning and designing and development, right, and collaboration done. That's what we did. And of course, the professional development. So this will require one additional teacher. My understanding is that one person has been already hired for that position and one resident substitute. And the 2 existing staff members who are pushing into classes 5 days a week, they will provide the release time. So we're going to have a total of 3 people. We're going to have, I should say 4 people. We're going to have 2 of the ASB teachers, 1 additional teacher, and we're going to have the resident substitute pushing in. Those days will begin the 3rd week of school, and that's important to note because we wanted to make sure that the people that were going to be doing the pushing in had time to sit down and coordinate, not just with themselves, but also with the existing teachers, and to create really kind of a plan for which teacher is going to be in which teacher's classroom, so that when the students receive, on those professional days when their substitute comes in, and we'll call them a substitute because they're not the regular teacher, that it's the same person every week. So that there's understanding. On Tuesdays, we have Mr. So-and-so. When I'm Mr. Seitz, we have Mr. So-and-so. And why? Well, Mr. Seitz is across the hallway having a meeting, right? And just because he's not here, things still run the same way as they always do. There's the same expectations. And that substitute understands my expectations because of the fact that they are collaborated with me in those first few weeks to make sure of that. To make sure that there's a fluidity to this that runs very smoothly. Right, that they understand as students that there's not, a different set of rules because the sub's in the house. And I think we all understand that when a substitute's present, students tend to misbehave. These are not going to be substitutes. These are teachers on campus every day, in classrooms every day. And they are just moving from one classroom to the next because they're serving the purpose of allowing for us as regular classroom teachers to have that collaboration time. Now, the estimated cost, and this was reported to me, was $198,000. Right? This was based off the study session from June 3rd. This would be a savings of $1 million. And we really thought as a staff that we understood the concern about money. And what we, at the same time, wanted was that you to understand our concern about the need for time. Time to implement what we started, to learn more about how it works, and to make it run smoothly with the intent and purpose, not just for the benefit of the students, but for the benefit of the district and perhaps other schools outside the district to learn how we've done this and what we've done. And so I want to thank you for the opportunity really to sort of share the why behind it all. Why this request? Why this need? I will admit that the conversation you had before I came up here was confusing to me. Why are we proposing this if we're just going to say that if we don't propose this, we go back to what we had last year? I'm not sure how I understand that. I'm leaving it to you to decide. The ball is in your court, but there's a desperate need on our part for a decision. And I think that right now I'm most concerned about the new principal you've hired. to be honest with you. Put a new guy in this position, and he's got to deal with the lack of a schedule, and he's got to schedule students, and I can imagine he's very concerned about being successful as a new principal. And I think he's going to find it very difficult without a schedule he can use. And that's my concern, not just for the school, but for him. So at this time, if you have any questions for me, I'll do my best to answer them. If not, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Seitz.
Mr. Seitz, thank you so much for this. Appreciate it. Couple of things. I really appreciate the attempt here because this is a new model and refining is needed. And your statement about this could be a model that goes further than just OCSCS. And I think that's the intent of when we set this up from the beginning is there's new models that we can try in this environment that could replicate across the district and make things better in lots of different ways. So I think this is really great. If I understand this correctly, this feels a lot like it's basically an extra period that's a study hall when it's a development day. It's not the students are getting instructional time is what you're saying.
We have agreed as staff that we don't want a majority of the time to be instructional time because we are still the classroom teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that a teacher who pushes in cannot perhaps finish a lesson and give students time to work on things, right? Or introduce a lesson so that the following day when I walk in, the introduction's done and I can get right into the lesson, right? So there's two aspects of it. So we're looking at breaking up that period, which I believe is, it's a 55-minute period, except if it's on a Wednesday, it'll be a little bit shorter period because you still have that early release Wednesday. And that early release Wednesday, we'll use that time for staff meetings because otherwise we don't have time for staff meetings. So our staff meetings are cross-curricular, studies where, for instance, the language arts department sits down with the social studies department and we have conversations. That can happen on the Wednesdays. But during those days when we have our professional development, this is not students doing busy work. This is not students just doing what they want. This is very structured time. And when I brought this up to a few of the other staff that weren't here before last year, they said, this sounds like a very difficult thing to do. I got to prepare for a substitute every week. And I said, it's going to be hard the first couple of weeks. But what you're going to find is, and that's because when we actually created the charter, for about 10 weeks, every Wednesday, I took the day off. 10 weeks every Wednesday. I was on campus, but I created lesson plans for a substitute. My classroom didn't skip a beat. Those students were instructed every time I was gone on Wednesday. And when I came back in, I just picked up where the substitute left off. It was the same young man every Wednesday in my classroom. We developed a relationship. He knew how I did things. The students understood that on Wednesdays, Mr. Seitz is gone, Mr. Parlapiano's in place, and he's in there doing the work. And it was as if I was there. And I'm sure that it's going to be something that the students will have to get used to, just like they had to get used to the schedule last year. But I think that it's going to run very smoothly. And I think that when you look at what we've talked about as a staff, because the teachers that are involved, they've all agreed to this. It wasn't something that's going to be sort of surprise. Here it is, the first week of school. They've already agreed to it. They are interested in making this happen. And they're people that are very respected on campus by the students and by the rest of the staff. And the other part that concerns me is, we got a new principal. We're going to have a large number of people. Our language arts and social studies department are still pretty much intact. But our science and math department, there's going to be about a 90% new staff in there because of the people that have left, some of which I think probably could have come back, but they already got jobs other places. We've got a lot of people to train, a lot of people that need to be brought up to speed on how to do what we do. And that's going to take time too. So those professional days are going to be needed for that aspect of it as well. Otherwise, I'm not sure how they will get to the point where they can actually understand how the charter works and how grading occurs and, the use of the attainment scales and things like that.
So I just want to make sure. So 44 minutes a week. So you're telling me that we're having, 44 minutes a month more of instructional time. So these kids that are going to OCSCS are getting about 400 more instructional minutes a school year. than the other middle school kids. 10 minutes, 40, so 10 months, 400. And so I keep hearing people saying that there's direct academic cuts to the other schools for this charter. Have we experienced any academic cuts to other schools for this charter? Is any other school missing funds or we're taking a hit?
The other schools are not impacted by what happens at OCSCS.
Thank you. Another thing that I was going to ask was before, and this is probably a question for you, Joan, before we had the debacle where they were trying to move the dual language academy and put it into Tuffrey and close it down there, but obviously that was against the charter petition to do so, so we had to leave it open at OCSCS. How many kids went to Tuffrey?
I don't know that.
Because of the supposed move.
I know that 26 initially said that they wanted to go. I don't know if any contacted student services to change since.
Okay, so OCSCS lost 26 students, and if we lowball it, say it's 13,000 a student, that's $338,000. So had nobody messed with the DLA program, and OCS still had those 26 students at OCSCS, would we even be talking about having to pay the extra $198,000, because would the DLA students have covered it because they'd still be at the charter school? If we're I know the whole numbers thing, and I know what you're saying, but I kind of think you can catch my drift, is like, would we even be talking this way because we wouldn't have 26 kids that are under Tuffrey's so-called budget? I know that that's not necessarily a thing, but could we look at it that way had this not been messed around at all?
Well, it is a little bit more complicated because of how everything does work itself all out. But I can say this is that, in my mind, this $198,000 is not a drastic change to this school. And I also look at, this school is a dependent charter. And so it's running on its own. In each of our schools, so when your prior question and you asked me, do we make cuts to the other schools because of this school? No, because we fund every school according to what the needs are for the students that are placed in those schools. So
when these speakers continue to come up all the time and say that this charter is taking money from these schools and these students, it's not true, because it's a dependent charter, so it's a district school, and we're operating just as we would with the others.
we're operating the school as we would with the others, as far as every school will have whatever students that they have, and we have to meet those needs. You have to look at the district as a whole.
Right.
We're just not receiving enough funds for what this district costs overall.
Right.
And that's why we're deficit spending and we have to work on the cuts.
Got it. So, Mr. Seitz, 400, you've been a teacher for a long time.
28 years.
Yes, so 400 extra minutes a year. How impactful is that to students?
There's no doubt that more time in the classroom is a benefit to students. And one of the benefits is this: we don't give students homework. We're running this almost like you're you want to be a plumber, you got to show up and you got to do the work, you know, the pipe fitting and the cutting and the measuring. And so when you come to the classroom, you're doing the work in the classroom. You're practicing in the classroom. And the lessons are specifically designed to practice for the test. So for example, in history, one of our skills is perspective. And so if we know that we're going to assess students on a question that deals with perspective on a test, we're going to make sure we design a lesson that focuses on perspectives. So when we got to, for instance, the causes of the Civil War, we were looking at perspectives, North and South, about the issue of slavery, about the causes of the Civil War. And students practiced in class that kind of skill. So they weren't walking out and taking that home and doing that as homework. That was done in class. Those were conversations, that was writing, that was the analysis of text, right? That was the digesting of, you know, quotes by different newspapers and things like that. That's the kind of work we were doing. But they didn't have to walk out of the classroom and take it home and do the work at home. They were doing it collaboratively in the classroom within groups. And they were having those conversations and talking about it, and then each of them taking time to write on their own paper and basically practice what they were going to do on the test. They get the test and they're asked a question on perspectives, right? And they're given different texts now to analyze. so that if they didn't get the practice in class, they couldn't do well, or they likely wouldn't do well on the assessment. Students don't walk out of the classroom with homework. Many of them are involved in sports, right? They go to dance classes afterwards, gymnastics after. And the result is that we think we've really kind of maximized what we can do in the classroom, and the more time we have to do it, just simply a benefit to the students, right? And I think that one of the benefits I think is most significant is this: the amount of time that students spend discussing what we do in class almost is equal to the amount of time I spend talking in class. The collaboration has been a benefit, not just academically, but socially. Being able to have those academic conversations and discuss what's being presented. I've seen kids who, for the most part, have been quiet the year before, who open up and are now free to have those conversations. And the benefit of having that conversation historically, or in literature, or with math, that benefit is tremendous. But we got to have class time to do it. And so the lengthening of the class period was a great benefit to the students.
And that was why it went from, that's why all of our other middle schools are 7 periods, but OCSCS is 6 periods.
Right, because we were able
Because
to lengthen those periods and
right.
give more time to instruction. That was the intent of the 6-period day. And we're still, as my understanding is, we are still significantly, as a school, and all the schools in the district are, over the requirement of the state in terms of instructional minutes. We go even beyond that compared to the other schools. I guess what was really kind of concerning to us as teachers, as we kept hearing, as we listened to public comment from multiple board meetings, we heard people talking about students losing instructional time. And
Right.
We're all doing the math, based on the schedule we were looking at during the school year. That's not true. That's not what's happening. Why doesn't somebody stand up and say that we actually are providing more minutes in the classroom and not less?
Well, I'm glad that we were able to say that tonight, that your kids at OCSCS, if you attend there, will have 400 minutes more than another middle school student. So I think that's clear tonight. And no homework.
I mean, the kid that decides not to finish in class and wants to continue doing that work at home, obviously they can do it. And some kids will do that. But the result is that there's never a demand. We're not going to collect it the next day. It's all practice, right? And there's a reason to do it, and that is because if you don't do it, when you get hit with that assessment, it's going to look like something foreign to you because you didn't do the practice in class. And those two are so closely tied together because we have the time during those collaboration days to make sure that the lessons we're designing, because as teachers, we're using the same lessons. And we are virtually doing them at the same time in each of our classrooms. Why? So we can get to the assessment at the same time and give the assessment on the same day, right? And then we are literally in between periods, giving the assessment, walking out to the hallway saying, what are you seeing? What's going on? We're having those conversations in between classes so that we can make adjustments if there's a problem on the test, or if there's a problem with an explanation of a question, or are we explaining it the same way? And we're having those conversations on the fly in between classes and then during our conference period to make sure that everything goes well for the students, to make sure that there's not some level of, I don't know, I'm going to call it discrimination, but so that everybody gets a fair shake. We don't want some students in some classrooms getting a benefit that other students don't, right? That's inherently unfair to students. And I'll tell you, 13-year-olds recognize that kind of stuff right away.
Right. And the only thing I would add to this is I don't know if this new principal has ever worked at a charter school before or is aware of the grading process, but since you're the lead petitioner and you can talk to the teachers, I don't know if there's a way to help the parents, like the incoming new parents of the students, to help understand the grading process, because it is different, but once you grasp it, it makes a lot of sense. And so I hope that that's something that we can, do better.
We as a staff recognize that this is a very unique situation, and the result is that those first few weeks, part of the reason why we don't want the collaboration days until week 3, we need the time to spend time with our students so that they can see exactly how they're going to be graded and how the grading works. We're going to give them a sample test. We're going to explain to them what will be looked at, how it will be graded. When you get your feedback, what does it look like? That's all part of that first couple of week process. We recognize that it's very different from what they've seen in the past, and so we want them to be fully aware. And then when they get their tests back, we don't just hand tests back and then let's move on. We hand tests back and we explain, this is what should have been in the answer, this is how it should have been written. But what they get back is a piece of paper that tells them their grade, but it also tells them the level they're at in terms of the skills. The skills have, each skill has 9 levels. Where are you at in terms of the level? But not just that. It tells you where you're at, and it tells you what you're doing, and it explains to you what you need to do in order to get to the next level. If you want to move from level 5 to level 6 or level 7, here's what you need to learn. You need to know how to do these things. So the skills that the paper that they're given, which has all the skills on it, it clearly lays out each of those levels, and it tells them what they need to do to move to the next level. So that you aren't looking at kids aren't looking at you and saying, I don't understand how I can improve. You point to the paper and you say, to get to level 7, you've got to do the work of level 7. And you're not doing that yet, right? And here's what it would look like if you were doing level 7. And we can literally give them a sample piece of work that says that question answered at that level would look like this. And now the kids know what to shoot for. And I'll tell you, the kids that really catch on, one of the things they tell you is, I really don't need to necessarily come to class every day and do my work if I simply sit and listen and collaborate. And if I really am good at my skills, I could probably crush anything, they'll tell you. I could probably crush anything in any classroom if I just sit and listen. Because the skills they develop are transferable. It's not just a social studies skill, but the ability to understand perspectives, the ability to understand the significance of an event, right? These are skills that are transferable to any classroom in any subject area. And that's what we're teaching them. How to analyze text and determine what is that person's perspective and what is the significance of the statements that they've made and how is it going to impact the future. And those kinds of skills are the kind of skills that I think really schools need to focus on, because information is building at such a pace, there's no way we can keep up with it. There's really no way we can keep up with the amount of information being thrown at us. But what we got to be able to do is to be able to digest it. We've got to have the skills to do that. And that's what we're working on and we're focusing on. And that's what we teach the students in the first couple of weeks. We focus on that idea and what does it mean and what does it look like, so that when we finally get to the point of actually doing instruction and making sure that the kids are ready to go. And every school does this, by the way. The first week or two is, it's, getting to know you. It's, here's the classroom procedures, and that's all part of it for us as well. But embedded in that is this whole conversation about grading and what does grading look like and how does it work, so that there's no confusion by the students and by the parents.
Right.
When it comes to grading.
Very good. Thank you.
I just had a question, probably for Joan as well. Going back to the financial, so the material revision I know was wanted, or some tweaks were brought about by the study session by the staff of wanting to change that mini elective period because they noticed that there were some things that could be improved in that. So the material revision would have to be done anyways just to fix that. And as well as the cost of the way it was being done. So the cost savings as well. So just to put it in, like you said, a whole district perspective of the $198,000 is less than what we were spending. And it doesn't necessarily take out of a school's budget, another school's budget. But in a whole, if we keep that $200,000 up for multiple years, it does cut into the whole budget, correct? And kind of lessen what we have to work with to give to everybody, including OCSCS.
True. So I always think of the budget as a pie, and we have to cut that pie up according to what all the needs are and who gets, how much of each pie. So when I'm talking about that, I'm saying so far what we've been able to do is what are all the different programs at each of the schools, and are we giving them the teachers? Are we giving them the textbooks? Are we giving them their supplies? And the answer is yes. However, everything, we can look at everything, and we could break down by school where everybody stands, but we don't move forward as a district if we do that. We have to look overall, where do we stand as far as this district? And moving forward, we're going to have to make cuts. And what is that going to look like? But that has to be a district-wide perspective. But you're correct in saying if in any location in our school those costs go up, that is going to be an impact overall to the entire district.
Right, correct. And that's what I was pointing, like no matter who spends it, it's going to be affecting the whole.
Yes.
Rather than just one. Mm-hmm. And then my next question was as far as I know that, like I said, the staff concerns were before, but the mini electives not quite having a focus and being changed so much last year. I like this new model, and if, one, like I said, it lessens the cost, it lessens the number of teachers that are pushing in, and like you said, it's going to be the same person each time. But I also like it that it's more of a focus, and they have more of a direction, I think. And like you said, you'll be planning that ahead of time, and if everybody is on the same pacing scale, then you should know where you are each week with that day, whether you're in there or somebody else. So I do appreciate that, with being able to, like I said, lessen the number of people used to do that, and with the cost of that as well.
That consistency piece is big. Like, that's the part that I think that you guys are working on over there, that we've all had conversations about, is the consistency of pacing and grading across the district. And so it's just at OCSCS at this moment, but the fact that you're focusing on the consistency is good, big for the students, big for the teachers, and also big for the parents. I mean, we need to get that better, so this may be a good solution for that, so that's good.
And then, like you said, as well, as the time goes on, we could probably lessen the time needed for PLC time, and again, bringing that cost back a little bit as well with that, so.
Mr. Seitz, thank you so much for your time and your presentation. I've been in your classroom a number of times, and you're very compelling, and your students do well. I mean, they learn just the way that you can speak to us and break things down and talk through things is, I can tell that you're very passionate about what you're doing, and I'm sure the kids are as well.
Thank you.
I am so thankful for the review and going back and really digging in and reducing the cost. Looking at $1 million at the budget that we have, and the shortfalls, that was insurmountable in my opinion. But the detail and the intention that you went back with and looked at this is commendable, so I appreciate that a lot. It really shows the values of our district of innovation and collaboration, and you explained those really well tonight, so thank you. I appreciate that having new staff is, did you say 90% of your staff?
I know the math department, there may be one person returning. The rest of them are new.
Yeah, that's challenging.
And science department, same thing.
Staff turnover, you have to have time to be able to get into that. You're right, it's that first year of it's learning so much, and then the second year you're just starting to kind of get the hang of it, and then by the third year you're kind of in the swing of it. So I appreciate that having all of that staff turnover is going to have a big impact, and you're going to need some more time to get them up to speed. The no homework for students, I am a huge fan of that. I think that we over homework our kids. Even in the past, being on the board, I brought the homework policy up so that we could talk about it and make sure that we weren't doing too much, especially when you look at GATE kids versus gen ed kids, and making sure it's all even and sticks within that 10 minutes per grade level. So even at most an hour, I would love to see the kids read an hour at home instead of having to take over
We don't
all that
actually
homework.
we don't call it classwork. We don't call it homework. We call it practice. You're in class to practice.
I love that. And then the grading practices, I am very interested in what that's going to look like. I've said before, I don't think anybody should get an F, especially when they're in elementary and into middle school. So it's about teaching them to love to learn. And I think that this helps with that. I'm very interested to see how we can utilize the learnings that you are going through and you're experiencing in other ways throughout the district. I really do believe that innovation is what we should be looking at, and how to make that important throughout the district, and no matter what we're doing and what programs. I really have been struggling with, what do we do, because we're in this deficit. I think that our staff has done a great job of looking at how can we trim things back. It might be an uncomfortable couple of years, and we don't really know when we're going to get to the end of this point where it's, reducing costs or reducing our what we are able to utilize for school. So we might just always be reducing, but if we do it strategically, and keep it in the classroom for the kids, we'll benefit from that. So even though I know that it's going to be impact our budget, it's a much smaller impact. I think it's very important that we support the school and make sure it gets going on the right foot. I would hesitate to include this for the next 5 years. I would really like for us to consider doing this for the next year, having you come back next March, April, a little bit earlier, talking to us about what successes you've had. Maybe there's a point where you want to tweak it again. We might have some budget changes that could impact that. So I appreciate it very much. I am supportive of this school. I've always said that. I just want to make sure that we're being fiscally sound. I think that $200,000, even though it seems like a lot, especially when we have such major deficits right now, we could easily say, no, we're not going to do it. But I'm not going to do that. I think that we need to make a little bit more investment into this and see what we can get out of it and what it can be for the kids and learn from that. And $200,000, I think, is a small investment at this point to see what is going to come from it. So thank you so much for coming during the summer and reporting out and showing us what's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and for your explanations. I took a lot of good notes. I just have a couple questions. I know that the teachers were surveyed. Were parents or students surveyed at all?
No.
About the process?
No, this was strictly the staff on the last day.
Okay.
So this was not a survey given to the parents or students.
I think that would be interesting to see what the parents and the students' perspective is in the future, to see how they're liking and if they're seeing the consistency, et cetera, with the school days and how the lessons build.
I think this is something that, Ms. Buck, you said that the fact that you like to meet, say, in March, and I know we have talked about the idea that we wish we had gotten started on this whole process earlier. I think the big hiccup was we didn't realize we had to, right? The principal,
Yeah.
our principal left, it's sort of like, now what do we do? So we didn't really realize we had to do something like this. Now that we know, I think that what would be great is we do a survey like this, right? Say in March. And
Or
in our,
I would think like January, February, so then you can discuss it and
But we can
and
then
get
report it
that.
out in a study session where we can have this conversation and we can talk about what we're doing, what are the successes, what are the things we think we might want to change for the next year that don't seem to be going the way we wanted to or anticipated, or they're not, we don't see the benefit in it.
Right.
And when we report that out, we could report out then how do the students and the parents feel about the schedule, about the use of those professional days, about what's going on during those days when the regular student, the
Yeah,
teacher's
we
absent.
just want to make sure that not only do you feel its value, but we want our students and our parents to
Agree.
see the value.
Agree.
And I think, we want it for everyone. The second question I have is regarding the teachers that break in. You said there's 2 ASB teachers?
So my understanding.
How does that work?
So my understanding is we have a language arts teacher that is going to become it's a different form, it's peer leadership as opposed to
Okay.
ASB, Associated Student Body. And that because of the number of classes they would both have, they would essentially have half schedules, not full schedules.
Okay.
Right, so the question mark becomes, well, what do we do with those people? We can't give them a half schedule, pay them full salary, right? So we want to make sure we're utilizing them. Then apparently, we've already hired one of the history teachers who was laid off or given a pink slip. He was rehired. And so that's the 3rd teacher, all right? And he actually has a full day. So he's got nothing but a clear schedule because at this point, if he's not being used in social studies, he's got nothing but time on his hands. And then the last person would be a resident sub. I think we're looking at someone who has been actually at the school since, I think, 2020, 2021, somewhere in there, who's been a resident sub at the school pretty consistently. She is not just valued by the staff. As a fact, when we brought this up in the meeting, we said we need a resident sub. her name popped out of everybody's mouth at the same time, okay? But she's highly respected by the students. And that's what we want. We want people that are not just on campus and available. We want people that the students recognize, that they see the impact that that person has on the campus as a whole and within the classroom, that has good management skills in the classroom, very important. And is someone that works well with the rest of the staff, because they're pushing into those classrooms. And what's interesting about those people that are pushing in is that, let's say that on Tuesday we have our professional day in history. Well, they push into history on Tuesday, but they're pushing into language arts on a Wednesday and into math on a Thursday. So they're changing subjects every day, right? So they've also got to be recognized as somebody who is capable of handling that. And we're dealing with people that are very skilled teachers, right? And we're dealing with somebody who's a very skilled resident sub. But that kind of, those kind of push-ins, when they work well because of the fact that it's consistently the same person pushing in. That consistency builds the relationship in the classroom with the kids. They know that Tuesdays with, Mr. So-and-so and not Mr. Seitz. They know that on Wednesday in math, it's with Mr. So-and-so and not with my math teacher, right? And they get used to it. And when there's the ability for me as a teacher to meet with my substitute in the morning before school starts, right? Because I'm not going to just not show up to class. I show up to class, I get everything ready, I meet with my substitute, the person pushing in. I explain to them what they're doing that day. Here's what you're going to do, step 1, step 2, step 3, right? They have my phone number. They can text me. They can call me and ask me questions. I'm literally feet away from the classroom. But there's this natural kind of fluidity. It just runs so smoothly. And for the students, I don't think they see a difference. They just know that on that day, I'm the busy guy. I'm in a meeting. I'm getting things done that are for the benefit of the students and for the benefit of the department. They're not seeing it as he's taking a day off. They know I'm not taking a day off. That's because we've had students walk into our meetings and they're shocked to see us all sitting at our laptops and working on and creating tests and creating assignments and slide presentations and agreeing to what's going to be said in those and how they're going to be, how the question's going to be asked and those sorts of things. So the students have seen it. They've witnessed it when they've accidentally kind of come in to ask a question when they really shouldn't be there. So I think that the concern over how that works and the people that are involved, I think that there's too much concern about that. I think it's something that we have seen over the last 5-6 years since we started the whole idea of resident subs. We've seen this as kind of a regular thing in a lot of schools. When teachers are called out, for instance, they have to go to an IEP meeting and they're going to be gone for an hour. Well, who pushes into their classroom? Right, that resident sub pushes in, and the teacher has the lesson plans ready for the sub, and the sub goes through the lesson plans, and the students receive what they need, right? And then the teacher shows back up after the meeting and continues with their day. So that's not an unusual thing that occurs.
This question then is for Joan. If we have two peer leaderships that are only basically working half days, isn't that then we're paying for like 3 extra, we're paying for 2 extra teachers and a residential sub then, additional?
Well, it sounds like,
I'm just trying to understand.
yeah. It's probably part of the allocated FTE that they already had. So I'll just go back to district-wide. We, coming into 25-26, started actually looking at staffing ratios and how that all worked out. We know we're declining enrollment. So when I heard that, that's just telling me if this was a different school, then they were overstaffed. But now they're going to use that extra time with that overstaffing to meet the needs of this program. So that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, because I know we've been working really hard to get our staffing in line
Yes.
and have consistency throughout the district.
Yes.
Let's add a little more.
Okay.
So OCSES did reduce their staffing allocation for next year to be more in alignment with our other district schools. So they did reduce staff, but they were still overstaffed to be able to run their programs. And so we did provide an additional cushion for them. And so with that cushion, they've made the decision to whether offer different electives, less electives, with the mini electives changing, to be able to apply teachers, and I believe it's actually 4 teachers who are on schedule, partial or full days to push in and provide this release. So it's 4 teachers and a learning facilitator, and it's all partial periods that they'll be doing.
So they're working part-time, but getting paid full-time?
They're working full-time. It's just that they have classes on record for themselves, perhaps, for part of the day, and then they are rotating through and
Okay.
providing instruction in the other classes. As Phil shared, Bernardo was a really strong AVID school before, too, and so when they switched to this model, I know that was something that was hard for them to do, was to give that up, and so it sounds like they're going to be utilizing that time to really reinforce a lot of the AVID strategies across the school.
So basically, there was 2 teachers that were technically paid full-time but working part-time because they only had 3 periods. Now we're filling that up, that schedule, so they're working full-time, getting paid, but it's matching up is
Right,
basically what
right.
it is.
Otherwise, they would have
Been-
taught full-time, but they
Right.
would have had
3
probably
periods.
smaller classes.
Mhm.
And
Or
so they
6
would have
small
had a full
classes.
schedule.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Right, and that wasn't going on last year. Last year, they were working full-time.
Yes,
It's just that the circumstances have changed in the year
Mhm.
ahead.
And then just to also clarify, in regards to the master schedule, while we're on the topic, they do have a master schedule built since they decided to stay with the 6-period day. And so it's in the ARIES system, and almost 98% of all their students are fully seated already. So I just wanted everyone to be relieved that they do have that already in place.
And speaking of ARIES as well, this model will probably help with the ARIES issue you guys were having before of like not being able, like students were in the wrong place or something, just like it was a lot of
So
like.
the problem was the mini electives and how
Right.
the mini electives were changing so rapidly. So every so many weeks they had to change and the
And then
student's
ARIES
schedule
wasn't
had to change.
keeping
Right.
up, yeah.
It wasn't that
weren't
it couldn't
changing.
keep up, it couldn't
Yeah.
do the work.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
designed to do that kind
Yeah.
of work, and so it all had to be
So
done by hand.
this would stabilize that because they're
Yeah.
going to essentially be in
Every
the same
student will
spot,
have a
in the
class
same
on
place
their
with
roster
the
in
same
the
teacher.
That
Get a
caused our
grade.
counselor, I mean, it drove her crazy.
Mhm.
I can imagine.
So.
Okay, one last comment. I appreciate that this is new and there is a learning curve and we do need to make an investment because we have done that. But I'm also worried about long-term deficit spending. And I received this letter from Orange County Department of Ed, and I just wanted to read this one paragraph. It says, "We would like to caution the district by increasing obligations by currently operating in a deficit spending pattern. Although reserves can provide some period to operate at an annual deficit, this district should provide a plan for returning to a balanced budget based on ongoing operating revenue. Enlarged operational deficits will likely require amplified staff reductions in the future." And I do not want that to happen to our district. And,
What does the whole letter say?
well, it's about, you want me to read the whole thing to you, or I can have you guys all get a copy? It says, "The Orange County Department Superintendent of Schools has reviewed the district's disclosure in accordance with Assembly Bill AB 1200, Statute of 1991, Charter 1213, and Government Code 3547.5 as amended by AB 2756. The proposed agreement," this is about the CSEA agreement, "proposed agreement period from July 1st, 2024 through July 30th, 2025. For the 2024-25 school year, the district and CSA have agreed to a 2% on-schedule salary increase effective July 1st, 2024. The fiscal impact of the proposed agreements results in expenditures increase of $1.3 million in the 2024-2025 school year. We would like to caution the district about increasing obligations while currently operating in a deficit spending pattern. Although reserves can provide some period to operate at an annual deficit, the district should provide a plan for returning to a balanced budget based on ongoing operating revenue. Enlarging operational deficits will likely require amplified staff reductions in the future. We would like to extend our thanks to your staff for the thorough and timely preparation of the disclosure of collective bargaining agreements. If you have any questions, please call me with the phone number or Howard Mariner at," and that was Dean West, Associate Superintendent of Business Services.
So this was regarding classified and we're talking about certificated? Because CSCA?
Well, they're just telling us that we need to make sure we get our budget in
I
line.
understand, but this is dealing with classified staff, not certificated at the school. That's
Well,
all
and
that's
if
all
I
I'm
could-
pointing
It's a-
out.
Okay.
If
It's
I could
about a
speak to
budget.
that too, that's a standard letter. Anytime that we have to bring a raise, whether it's certificated, classified management, we have to provide that, and then they'll bring back that letter. So that is a standard letter, and it is on point. We are deficit spending. We do need to address it. So,
Which is why there's a stabilization plan in process.
correct.
Right.
Which we will bring back to
Totally
you at a
being
later
addressed.
date.
Yeah,
And that's why I
exactly.
brought it up, that we are deficit spending and we are expending more. So I'm just saying we can't continue to do this for,
But we're
5
actually
to
s-
10 years.
Right, but we're actually spending less. I mean, because we're saying we're increasing $200,000, but there's a savings of $1 million. Did you?
Well, that was because of the plan that they
No,
wanted
I-
to do.
I understand,
So it's
but I'm
not
just
net-
saying-
It's not really a savings. It was
Well,
they
we
proposed
reduced it
and
by
we
$1
said
million.
no.
Yeah, but it was.
Reduce the proposal.
We reduced it.
We
Like, okay,
reduced
call it
the
whatever
deficit.
call it whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm just saying.
My wording there by savings was simply to say, if we continue what we did last year, it would have cost $1 million more.
Right.
Which is what
So
would
we're not
happen
spending
if we
that.
said
We're
no to
suggesting we
this.
don't- We
Yes.
recognize the impact financially of the district. We
Right.
understand.
Yeah, I'm just bringing
And
this
Joan,
over.
can I ask a question? How many school districts in California are deficit spending? Would you say
Almost all of
95 or
them.
96, maybe 98%? Because people keep coming up here and saying this, but it's like everyone is deficit spending across California.
Yes.
So we're not in any different position than anybody else.
Everyone is deficit spending except for a few. We are using our reserves up faster than some of the other school districts. And it all goes down to our deficit spending is just a larger amount that's going to use up our reserves quicker. And so, yes, we are all deficit spending, but most of us, but everybody's doing it at a different rate.
Right.
And I would say just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean that we should. We should be fiscally sound. However, I think that we are digging into all of that and making some good corrections. I also want us just to think about, again, just do this for 1 year and then bring this back and talk about it. So if we're going to add it to the resolution, maybe we just add it for this coming fiscal year and then to be reviewed again, so it doesn't add on
Well,
for
could
the
we, could we
5
ask,
years.
I
could
think
we ask
the-
Suki, because
I
it's a
think that the
5-year
wording-
charter.
and I
It's a
think the-
5-year charter contract, so if we're amending a portion of the contract, wouldn't that sit till the end
And
of
doesn't
the charter,
but
of
doesn't
the charter
wording
contract?
already kind of say that it's until we change it?
So it depends on the resolution that the board adopts. Right now, the motion is to pass the resolution as drafted. So you would need to have a vote on the resolution that's there, or you would have to have somebody amend the motion to revise that resolution. But to your point, it could be for the balance of the charter term, or it could be for the balance of the school year. But then there would have to be some type of provision as to what happens at the end of that school year. Because right now, if you don't approve this tonight, it reverts to what's in place, which is that additional $1 million cost. If it is that it's approved for the balance of the school year, but you need to be, a material revision needs to be brought back by no later than, say, March 15th, well, we won't use March 15th, but March 31st. Yeah, it was like, ooh, the minute I said that. March 31st, February 28th, whatever timeframe that the board wants, so.
Can you repeat that again, how it could be just for 1 year? Does that mean we approve it as is now and we then have to bring it back to adjust it, or can we just include now an amendment for 1 year?
So you include, and you amend your motion to provide that the resolution be revised so that it is for the balance of the 25-26 school year. Because what it says right now is that it's effective as of this date, and that it would be effective then till the end of the charter term.
But Suki, what if, so if we just vote it on it tonight and it's gonna go for the 5 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Wouldn't, if we needed from the district, if we needed something and we said, hey, we're looking at this and we need further changes, wouldn't it be done as appropriately as it just did? Wouldn't we go in and say, hey, we're looking at this, we need a material revision to be able to focus on that, like, so as needed, versus at the end of the year, then what happens if there's no material revision, you know, but then did the resolution run out? Like, what happens?
Then does it revert back to?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be in change, you know, for the balance of the year, and then we would have to tweak that resolution to say that if it's not, for example, if the new material revision is not approved, does it revert back? If it doesn't get approved, you know, are they going to be able to, you know, for the third, because this is the second instructional year that we're looking at for the charter. So you would have to, you know, tweak your resolution a little bit more. And I'm happy to do that with
It's
whatever.
sounding a lot more complicated, and because we can just do a material
Yeah, we could just
revision,
ask for material revision if we
Yeah.
need something different.
Yeah.
I'm
That
not
seems-
comfortable with that. So if we were to go forward with this, I would say no. But if we amend it and we do it for 1 year, and then we could come back.
What is that? I'm just confused as to
Because
what
I'm
is
not,
that
I don't
fix?
want to lock it in for the remainder of it. What if we
But
end up
you-
in a worse deficit next year and the year after that and the year
Well,
after
then we do
that?
another material revision.
I think we preempt it ahead of
But
time.
we
We
still-
don't lock ourselves into
But we
it.
still will have, now we have to create a whole plan for what happens afterwards, worst case scenario thing. I think that's not,
You don't treat
Very
other middle
efficient.
schools, and you don't treat any other school in the district like that.
well, I'm just saying, I don't think it's very
Well,
efficient at all.
I
No.
think what you want, but I will not approve it unless it was only for 1 year.
If I may, Suki, if the resolution is approved as is, then that becomes the new petition, and it would continue on under this model moving forward unless other material revisions were changed.
Exactly.
If it's for 1 year, then the board will have the opportunity to decide for the following year, but if no decision is made, it would revert back to the original one,
Yeah,
correct?
it doesn't make any sense.
Well, yes, because this is saying is it's only for 1 year with the amendment that you're proposing.
Yeah, we revert
So
back
if
when
we
you're spending
approve it
an
as
extra
is now,
million.
it locks it into being this model.
This
And
model.
any changes that were made, it was going to be to this model itself.
Exactly.
Not the previous
Exactly.
one's going to be gone and
Mhm.
done
The
with.
$1 million
The minute
out.
you.
Is
back
there
up.
a way to write the material revision where it changes it to this model, and then at the end of next year, we determine if we add that, we have these two pieces included in it?
So the way that the resolution would then have to read is that this is effective for the 25-26 school year, but by no later than X date, and that's what I was saying, you know, it's just throwing out a random date, by no later than X date, the board would have to make a decision as to what would be in place for the 27-28 school year. And if there was no decision that was made, say, for example, the board wasn't able to reach a decision, you know, said, it was like a 2-2-1 or something like that, then we would have to have like a fallback provision in place.
We have to have a whole second plan.
Yeah.
We don't have time.
It would just be exactly like it is now. If something happens and we need a material revision or something happens, then the district asks the lead petitioner for the material revision, they come up with it, and we vote. I mean, I don't understand what the.
In a
I
perfect
don't
world,
understand-
but it has been a
That's-
challenge to get to this point.
Well, you know
So-
what? That's why we're trying to hold people who made it this challenge accountable. So why don't you guys hold people accountable who got us in this
I
mess?
would have liked to know how we were going to get out of this mess before we even started it. We should have gone
There
much
was no
slower to
mess.
begin with.
There was no
There
mess.
was a
You can't
huge
go
mess.
slower. The thing is not always to go
So,
slower.
I would like to know if we can make this change and make this amendment.
Well, so I'm going to ask for your help on the Brown Act. So there's a motion on the table. It's been seconded.
So if we're going to delay it till later in the meeting, because we probably want Suki to do work to craft language, if we're going to delay it, because lately I've been helping districts doing things at the last minute in some other districts, and it's not going well when we rush things. And so I don't recommend like making a change on the fly like this. So to the extent that there is a motion on the table, the board could vote to table it for later in the meeting so that we could do our other business, and Suki would have some time to come up with something to propose back to the board. And then once we've gone through our regular business and she's finished what she needs to do in a thoughtful way, we could bring the item back for further consideration. There would be the existing motion that would still be up for debate. People can make a substitute motion based on what Suki talked about, and we can walk you through that process. But I don't recommend doing a revision while talking like this. And I see Mr. Frazier is shaking his head. Probably in agreement.
Can you give me a theoretical reason as to what this protects us from, Carrie? I just don't get it.
Because I don't want to now approve $200,000 in perpetuity. And so I want to know how we can approve this for one, and only have this $198,000 on for 1 year, so that the following year, it's not just an automatic. I'd like it to stay how it's written now and then review it. But if next year we are in a bigger debt, then that $200,000, those extra teachers come off the plate and they do with what they have.
Got it. So let's just play this out. Do you not think there's going to be anything else that needs to be changed at the end of this year?
I have no idea. That
Okay,
would determine
great.
what
Perfect.
happens.
Perfect. Based on what we just talked about, there will need to be changes to adjust for it to get better. My assumption would be that there will be a material revision every year.
I don't want to assume. I want to make sure that it's written in.
So you wanna-
what we're limiting
so
as
you
far as
wanna-
the dollar amount for this,
I
for the
disagree.
following
I
year.
would like to vote yes on this now so that OCSCS can get back to doing what they need to do.
Yes. I'd like to have Suki do a little work on it and then come back in a little bit and tell us what,
Well,
if
we have a
there's
motion on the
possible.
table. Let's vote. We have a
Just
motion on the
quick
table.
question. So as far as a material revision, it doesn't have to be OCSCS that the staff requesting the material revision. We as a board could request a material revision. So if it was
Absolutely.
three, like a majority vote that we are asking them for material revision and we ask for this, we can do that as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Well, and don't assume that if we need to change things in lower budgets, that we wouldn't say, let's do our material revision. The process just started way late.
Yeah.
That's
Right, and-
so.
So, I'm just saying, we could, like you said, roll it all into anything else they want to change, but we also have, like, as a board, we can request that material revision. It does not have to
Absolutely.
come from the school.
And also, it's also important now that it's clear to all parties involved at the moment that we have to start changes at OCS earlier than we do for other campuses, period. I think that's the lesson here.
It would
We
be
all-
nice to have everybody early because that's.
Sure,
the
oh, yeah.
best thing.
Let's start everybody in November.
Right.
But, I mean,
So,
that's-
right, so as a
that'd be like
dependent
last minute.
charter, the board has the power to say, we're reducing staffing again next year. So next year, we're going to reduce by another 4% as an example.
Right.
In which case, that would apply to all schools. So because it's dependent, you
But would
have
it
the
apply
power to
to
do
this
that.
school? Because this is separate.
Yes, it would, yeah.
It's
Did
a
it-
district it's a district school.
Yep. Right. And also remember, we're using the term material revisions very loosely. Suki opened up with talking about the Charter Law Act and what really is considered a material revision. What we're doing here, changing the schedule changes, may or may not necessarily be a material revision, but that's okay, because the board, it's a dependent charter, and you could call it what you want to call it. But should we come back next year and say we need to make significant reductions, so here's your budget for the following year, OCSCS, and it'll be on them to make those cuts.
And it would be more of like a staffing reduction or a
Yeah,
staffing
could be
issue rather
yeah,
than
could be just
possibly
a
material
school
reduction.
resource allocation, it could be related to staffing, fewer FTEs, or, well, just like if there's fewer kids next year or more kids next year, we're going to make those adjustments appropriately.
That's actually a good point. So just reducing staffing doesn't take a material revision. It's changing the model. So we could reduce staffing and not have to have a material revision, which means this doesn't lock us into anything.
Right.
It's just a model.
Material revision is, I'm just taking over here for you, Suki, but basically, if you're changing location, adding a grade level, for example.
Taking away a program, adding a program.
Yeah, like anything that, like, if you need to tell the parents, then you could consider it a material revision as a general. But there's best practices and a list of what you probably would want to consider. But to Trustee Buck's point, no, you're not locking in to this amount. You have the power to make changes again appropriately
And
as needed.
staffing isn't limited by a material revision. I think that's the important piece.
Or it's not driven by the petition.
Yes.
Right.
However, whatever the wording is, that makes that the case. This doesn't lock us in.
Okay, I just want to be clear that the wording that's added into the charter, it says, the goal of the system will be provided release days as frequently as once a week.
As frequently as.
Once.
As frequently as.
Yeah, as frequently as once a week.
So it could be-
So it is locked in, that they will get release time once a week for their.
The model, yes, but the staffing is different, and that's where the cost comes from.
But if you lock in that they're going to get it once a week indefinitely, then you've got to provide staffing.
Are we going to change it mid-year?
So that's.
No, are you
So I have a
gonna-
question.
I'm trying to clarify
Yeah.
that
If-
we can reduce staffing by 4%, but we're still going to have to, if we approve this, we're still going to have to provide release time for the
That's-
teachers once a week.
That material revision would come in. if
that's
that
where the
happened.
material-
That's where we
We have to
request the
change
material
our model.
revision.
So if the board makes it, if the board has to make decisions, say in terms of staffing, just as we were talking about before, the board as the charter, as the authorizing agency can direct staff to say, make a material revision, bring it to us, let's do the public hearing, let's take action. So, and it's a 90-day window, which is the outside window, but you can scrunch that window. So, I mean, if there's things that need to be changed, then the board can say, we need to have this material revision brought to our next board meeting, and then we'll have the public hearing, et cetera, et cetera. So you can, really scrunch that time down. And it's always helpful if there's, like in this case, there was a lot of staff input. There was a lot of staff buy-in, but sometimes it's not necessary because at the end of the day, it's a district school and you are allowed to make the same types of changes to this district school as you are to any other district school. So if there's a concern.
And it has to be a board majority to do the material revision, or can one board member
No,
request it?
it's a board majority. Well,
That's-
so that's an interesting question. So, and this is something that can be addressed perhaps through the board policies, right? Because we haven't brought that back yet for the second reading, is that perhaps a single board member or two board members or the board subcommittee, because you could have a charter subcommittee, the charter subcommittee requests that, or the board president directs, the superintendent, et cetera, et cetera. There's a number of different ways that we could do it. In order to change it, it needs to be a majority of the board.
But not to bring it back.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So I have a calculation question. So if we have 40 teachers at the school and we have release time for them within this framework, and at the following year we have 20 teachers, so we've reduced in half, and we still have to provide that time, or maybe we flip it, we go from 20 to 40. We have a limit on here of $198,000. How does that impact for staff time? Are we gonna, if we have 40 teachers, is that gonna increase that dollar amount because of the time, the model, the pullout time? And what does that compare to a staff of 20? So will that reduce, or is that a locked-in number?
So when we're going to look at staffing, we have to look at enrollment numbers. Let's just go there first. So you look at your enrollment numbers, and let's just say the school goes up by 200 students. We're going to have to staff accordingly. So then that means they're going to get more money to pay for the extra teachers that we need, and vice versa. If it goes down, then we pull staffing from them. So staffing is not tied to this program per se. It's just they're going to provide that program, but we're going to go and we're going to take a look at, okay, there's the program. However, I would be looking at how many kids are there, where are they at, and how are we going to staff that so that they can continue that program until you choose to do something different. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Proportionate. So we're not in for 198, no matter the flexibility,
can go
the
up or
flex
down.
of up and down. I just was confirming.
Yeah, 'cause the good point of saying, what if enrollment goes up? Well, then 198 isn't going to be what the number is for the 26-27 year, because we need more staffing to cover the model. Got it.
And then if we have a budget deficit, then we look at what that might look like. If we have a budget overage, then we could make that call then.
right, so let's vote on the current motion. Correct? It's on the table. Are we ready to vote?
Can I ask one more question related to the bell schedule? Totally different, because I meant to ask it. There's a 3-minute passing period in each between classes.
Correct.
I have heard from the community, kids and parents, that time frame is incredibly short, and it causes a lot of anxiety and stress for kids to run back and forth. I know you have extra time. Was there a consideration of making those passing periods 4 minutes versus 3 minutes? And you would still be within that
I
window?
can't speak to whether that was considered. I can tell you that after 28 years and experiencing both 5-minute, 4-minute, and 3-minute passing periods, more time you give students to between classes, more likely you are to have problems.
But 3 is fast, so would 4 be better?
I think the 3 was chosen because of the close proximity of buildings.
Okay.
That there's not a great deal of distance between
That's very
one
true.
classroom to
Yeah,
another.
less time
on
for
that
mischief.
campus. It's a rather tight and small campus, so you don't need as much time.
Middle school mischief.
We as teachers, we've walked it. So when we've actually experimented with the whole idea. We get out with the kids, we walk with the kids, and I go from one building to another. How long does it take me? And
Okay.
it's about 1.5 minutes to get from one place to another.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it's, if you're talking to your friends and you're lingering and that kind of stuff, is there enough time to go to the bathroom? No. But I'm gonna tell you this,
But
I don't
that's
think a lot of
addressed in
kids choose to go to the bathroom during passing periods. They just, if the
Yeah,
bathrooms,
they
if
wait
they were all
and
go to the
they're like,
bathroom,
"Can I
be
go to the
crowded,
bathroom?"
and they'd be waiting for a stall, or, they wouldn't get it done, or they would just be messing around in the bathroom. So I think that that's really where the number comes from, is more what is appropriate for the campus, the number of students that we have on campus at any one time, and whether or not we're seeing behaviors that are occurring during that passing period. And we've
Okay.
just found that the 3 minutes works best for us.
Thank you. Sorry to derail, but
That's
popped
okay.
in my head.
It's an interesting question.
No, it's a good question, because that was originally part of the whole caught in the middle movement, the idea of developmentally appropriateness for a 12 or 13-year-old. Is the less time that they have, the better
Yeah.
their behavior overall.
All right, well, I appreciate walking through and talking through all of that, knowing that we can come back and bring that and have conversations. We're going to be looking at a policy later on how to codify that and how to put some parameters around. So, thank you. I'm more comfortable now.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. Is anybody else, last question? Okay. All in favor to grant the material revision, I'll just repeat it, since it's been a while. Grant the material revision requested by Orange County School of Computer Science, approving the charter as so revised with July 22nd, 25 as the effective date of the revised charter, and adopt the attached board resolution number 2504. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Sides.
thank you so much. And enjoy your summer. Thank you for all your work on this. Since we've been going for 2 hours, I think let's take a.
Anybody need a bathroom break? I don't need one. Anybody need a bathroom break?
Okay, I guess I'm the only one, so you better go fast, or I'll be calling it.
There you go, Madam President.
I'm going to need to pull.
Everybody's list just went to 0.
Okay, approve the revisions to board 13.2.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to Board Policy 5124, Promotion, Acceleration, Retention, second reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Frazier, a second by Mrs. Quintero, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Young.
Thank you. Good evening. This evening, we're proposing a revision to Board Policy 5124, Promotion, Acceleration, and Retention, and this is a second reading of this board policy. The only changes that were made from last month were the requested change to remove the redundant paragraph in paragraph 2, as the acceleration language was already covered in paragraph 3. No other changes were made, and we welcome your feedback and consideration of this proposed revision.
Thank you for the changes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the extensive support needs provisional internship for Nicholas Gordillo at George Key School.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Frazier and a second. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Frazier and a second by Mrs. Blades. Mrs. Mendoza.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gordillo is a special education teacher who teaches Mod Severe. He will end his internship at the end of this year, and as you know, we have a hard time finding special education teachers, so we decided to bring this intern forward.
Any questions?
We're all good with it?
Okay, perfect. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I'm going to pull one.
I'm pulling 8.
And we still have the calendar,
Oh, the discussion.
the discussion. I was like, I know there's something else.
Gosh. Okay.
Yeah. Do you guys want to take a break now?
No, we're gonna handle this. Come on.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Hey, I think we could possibly like maybe agree. Like, so let's just try it.
Okay.
If we get mid and we're like still at war, then hey, we'll go to the bathroom, I guess.
Okay. So, consent calendars, actions proposed for the consent calendar items are consistent with approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. The trustees receive board agenda backup information in advance of scheduled meetings and are prepared to vote with the knowledge of the block items. Is there any items to be pulled?
I would like to pull 17.1.
And I'd like to pull 17.6. Anybody else?
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the balance of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck, a second by Mrs. Blades. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
I'll make a motion, 17.1, we ratify an increase to the independent contractor agreement with OC Safety, Inc. to provide first aid, adult, child, and infant CPR and AED training to preschool teachers in the early learning program during the 25-26 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Buck, a second by Mr. Frazier.
My comments are, I don't know if you're aware, but North Orange County ROP offers CPR training. So as you look into these contracts in the future, we should get a quote and consider them as this service. That's all.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, 17.6. Approve the proposal with the International Baccalaureate to provide the primary years program training to Morris Elementary staff for August of 2025.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Mrs. Anderson, a second by Mr. Frazier. I'm very excited about this program coming, but I pulled it because the training is coming out of the Arts and Music Instructional Block Grant, and I've been asking for a long time for that budget and where we stand. on our priorities. We approved a 3-year budget, which expired at the end of this year, 2025. And we haven't seen a new budget or a new anything. And I keep asking for it, and but we keep spending the money. So I'm just trying to figure out where we are, and that we already know our budget is being dropped. We have less money, so I want to prioritize this money and make sure it's spent well, the remainders and I just don't want to piecemeal it.
So I can tell you right now, we're still in the process of closing the district books. So we really won't know what we're ending up with until we complete that process. I believe it'll probably take us another week before we can get to that, a week, 2 weeks at the most. And then after that, then we can sit down, and I know Dr. Yan can talk about it too, but work on the program and bring that back and tell you what the plans are to spend that money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have an estimate of how much is left in there, or?
I didn't bring it with me,
Okay,
but I can send you an update in a week.
okay.
We've been anxiously awaiting that information as well so that we could reallocate the remaining funds for the final year. So the third year of the plan is next year, so.
I was gonna say
this
that
coming school year,
The
25.
25,
'Cause we-
26 is the last.
Yes.
I thought we approved it for, and maybe I'm wrong, because I've read a lot in the last 24 hours. Okay, yeah, this is our last year.
Mhm. So we plan to bring the remaining funds and the revised plan forward to the board in the fall for approval.
By the September meeting, or?
That's the goal,
Okay, okay.
waiting on the books to close.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, so now we are to the board discussion to evaluate students' school calendar.
Okay, Yolanda?
Oh, okay. I recommend that you guys all vote on it and we just pass it. I'll give you $1,000, Todd, to make that
If
recommendation.
you can, I'll take cutting, never mind.
Yeah,
We'll
I
talk
know,
later.
okay.
We'll talk later.
So what I've done is, I've given you over the last 2 weeks, over the last two board updates, I've given you a calendar that's a week early and then a calendar that's 2 weeks early. I tried to take into consideration the original questions that you had asked me about 4 or 5 months ago. And the rub is that if you look at the bottom of the draft calendar, it's 81 instructional days first semester and 99 instructional days the second semester. So they're lopsided. I brought 3 other calendars for you, just so you know. Capo is 80 and 100. Santa Ana is 86 and 93, and Brea is 84 and 96. So everybody's kind of lopsided. One of the things that was brought up today, and I'm just going to throw it out there because somebody brought it up. So we have that. If you look at September 4th, it's a Friday, and we have that attached to Labor Day. So if you wanted to get just one extra day on the second semester, you could add that extra day to one of the February holidays and give everybody a long weekend. And then at least that would be one more instructional day in the first semester. So it would make it 82. What's your numbers again? First, for one, starting 1 week early, it's 81 to 99. And if you go 2 weeks, if you start 2 weeks earlier, it's 86 to 94.
And what are we now?
80.
With the Monday start, right. Gosh,
81.
I anticipated all the questions. Olivia, do you know what are we now? I don't.
Yeah, I want to say we're at least, I want to say either 4 to 6 weeks even off. Let me check right now.
Let me see, I got it.
I have in mind
20
it's
some days.
79 to 105, 26 days difference.
Here's the calendar. Is it written on
That's
here?
what I have in my notes that I figured out. So,
We are 75 to 105 for instructional days, as far as
30
students go.
days.
So 31 days. then?
30 days, so it's 6 weeks.
Six-
Yeah,
That's a
so
long.
6 school weeks, yeah. That's why we had to isolate units for the semester courses to be taught on both sides of the semester.
I like that September 4th idea, just because that week is so wonky. I know for teachers, like, they
Right.
barely get started on something, and then it's like a first
Right.
week again the next week, so.
Right.
I agree with that.
And
It's-
so
it's really
we had counted, I know that one of you asked me when we first talked about it, was the number of instructional days before the AP classes. So this has everybody, we don't have exactly the AP, but we're going on this year's AP classes. So all of their tests are in May. So that would give you the most instructional days before the AP tests. And then, of course, it just ends on different days. Another question I had asked today was about the athletic calendars. And so we checked with CIF, and we couldn't get calendars for 2 years from now. But for this year, for example, we have, the first contest is August 18th. So we're assuming it would be around that kind of time. So that's about the earliest that we have.
Yeah. And that's a week 1. I think this year we don't have a week 0. Isn't that week 1?
So
Or-
Linda has a week 0, they're August 22nd.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
Esperanza's
that
on
changes,
week
right,
1. I
yeah.
don't know if El Dorado did
Yeah.
week 0 or not.
But yeah, it changes, so that could even be earlier, or depending on the school.
Right, so some of our high schools
August
will
9th.
actually have
August
2
9th.
games without
Yeah,
kids
August
even
9th,
being in
sorry.
school.
August 9th, girls volleyball.
Yeah, well, girls flag football, I think, is August 8th and 9th. It's a weekend deal. Yeah. So, what date would it put us to start if you did the 1 week and then the 2 week? This
So
is just
the-
theoretical, obviously.
The start date, the first day of school, if it's 1 week early, would be August 17th. If it's 2 weeks early,
You're talking about August 2026 then?
2026.
Yeah, okay. So that's a Sunday.
And if it's 2 weeks early, if you go back 2 weeks early in 2026, it would start August 10th. And it would end, so then you would end school.
By Labor
You would
Day.
end school before Memorial Day, which would be
Memorial Day,
the 25th of May, and then just the 1 week early would end school on June 2nd.
Yeah, I know, my last day, my first day back is August 4th, so a lot of my friends too. I go back to work, so I know it's very common to go back that early.
Right, right.
Y-
And
yeah,
I
it
didn't want to
certainly-
I didn't want to touch Thanksgiving. I didn't want to do that. And,
Orange County tends to skew a little bit later. Some are even still Labor Day, but Inland Empire and most of LA is the first week of August.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah.
trading August for June.
I know my son doesn't start his first year of college until like August 26th or 27th. Like
25th.
it's way in the back. And so we were actually, where were we, Todd? We were somewhere. And we were just talking about that, and there was a lot of people who were saying a lot of the colleges, they are starting like late August.
yeah, so UCLA and Berkeley start about the 1st of October.
Yeah, because
Yeah, so it's not like, so when everybody's talking
They're on
about the
quarters.
college stuff, like all of these colleges are starting way late, so.
Yeah,
this
and
is-
their first semester or quarters are over before winter break.
Yeah,
It seems like the practical piece would be to even out instructional days if possible and the AP testing date.
Right.
I think 2 weeks is way extreme, personally.
I think 2 weeks would put us with about the average of the schools.
I really like the 1 week and then changing that
The 4th,
That
September
day.
4th.
that day and throwing it into February and somehow combining the two president holidays and having a really nice little mini vacay.
because we have to realize too that when we did the survey, the last survey was done at, what was it, 6 or a year ago? It was 50-50.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, we have elementary and middle school, and a lot of them don't want to move the schedule at all. but high school is like the AP and the athletes. And so I think if we were to do anything at all, I would be comfortable with the 1 week, just because it's almost like we gave elementary, and yeah, it was a good compromise.
Yeah, this is purely a high school issue.
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is not-
elementaries don't typically care. The other thing, though, to consider is our neighboring districts, because many of our employees have kids there and vice versa. So usually, there's a lot of alignment. Yeah, and some like that, and some don't as much. But that's also a consideration typically.
Yeah. I'm even okay if maybe like 1 week for the first year and then bump it back the second year, like phase it in. Yeah, phase it in. Then phase it in that way, because I know 2 weeks is a shock, and that's a shock.
Do you want me to come back with another calendar for the 27-28 school year?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Well, we have one for the 1 week, right?
Yeah, we have a 1 week calendar.
Yeah, and
I
then the
can,
next
I'll bring you,
year-
actually,
and the
what I
next
can
year would
do,
be the 2
what I
weeks
can
if
do for the
possible.
Friday update, I can take the 4th, I can take that September 4th date, and I can move it and show you where it's gonna land in February. And then I can, just give you a proposed, 27-28 school calendar. So you can have it out 2 years, okay?
Would that be moving it another week early, or just leaving it with the first week?
What's your pleasure?
I think we're talking 1 week early and move
1
to
week
Friday.
the first year, and then another week the second year?
Well,
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Keep it at 1 week or go back 2? Or you want me to do both?
Why don't you do both?
Okay, I'll do both.
And then show us what the next year
Okay,
looks like at 1.
okay.
And then then we can hold up the 1 with the 1 week, and then the other one
Okay.
2, and we'll be able to see.
Yeah, it might fall different too with Memorial Day, because it's that
Right.
weird
Or
31st.
even-
It'll switch back up.
The PowerPoint that Ms. Blades was talking about was in your packet.
Yes.
I didn't put it in your packet this last week, but 2 weeks ago it was.
oh, yeah.
Right.
Or even, like, does it have to necessarily be a week? Like, could we even just, like, the middle of that, like, the 12th,
middle day.
13th? You know what I mean? So it's not a full 2 weeks necessarily?
I had heard that you wanted to start on a beginning
Monday.
of
I
a
mean,
week.
yeah, that would be nice, but I'm just saying ideally to make a compromise of between the 1 and 2 weeks.
I can do both of
maybe.
them, or all 3 of them.
Yeah, some of the families like to stagger it in a few days this week, and
I
then.
know, it's nice teacher-wise, but yeah.
Okay.
I can see it both ways.
Yeah, the
All right.
reality is they don't
It
get
really
much
is
done the first couple of
Yeah.
days.
I think,
I think the more,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I'll
options.
get it,
I'd
I'll
like
get it
more
for you in
the
the Thursday
16
update.
days
I'll
is
get it out to you in the
Yeah.
Thursday
Yeah.
update.
And then we'll talk about it again.
Okay.
we'll discuss in August, I guess.
Better than special board meeting.
That's true. You know what, yes.
I think Todd wanted me to add another meeting to the July.
Well, Yolanda, thank you for for pointing out that there was a PowerPoint. Thank you for backing me up with this.
Oh, yeah, there
I
was.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and it was a lot of, it looked like it was a lot of work by Laura Lee. It was a lot of work at the time. So I was good, I thought, we're not doing this again. Let's just
Yeah.
stick it in again.
No, I
So-
appreciated that,
so we
seeing the
did that, yeah.
graphics and everything with it too.
Right.
It made it a lot more real.
I did the graphics, she did the words. Yeah, right.
Okay, now we're to board reports.
Okay, it's summertime, and someone on this board has to use the restroom. So I'm just going to say, everyone.
We shouldn't be doing a whole
we
lot this
shouldn't
summer.
be, yeah. So you know what? Just continue to have a great summer, and all is well.
Just to go back, graduations were great since we never got to report out on graduations. Everything went well. I think it really went smoothly, and I loved how the new, I don't want to say new setup, because setup was the same, but new company, and or how we did it this year was really nice. And I didn't see any hiccups that I noticed at the ones I went to. It was great. So I really want to really appreciate the effort was put into recognizing all the students for the promotions and the graduations. That was really important. So that was nice to see. Yeah, and then last Thursday, I went to the AVID conference. So that was nice,
cool.
the one-day district leadership conference for AVID, and that was really great to learn more about the program and the inner workings of it. So it was nice to do that.
Perfect. It's been a busy summer so far, and getting really excited with I've got 2 seniors. So football season, girls flag, boys football is going to be, it's a lot, and it's starting to set in, and it's like this is the swan song, so which is kind of fun, but I'm excited. School year's coming. Go team.
I have nothing really to add. Just thank you to all of our facilities and maintenance crews out there that are doing such an amazing job over the summer, getting us ready for the school year to start. So thanks for all the hard work. It's noticeable as you drive around.
And also the ones who are maintaining the summer program as well.
Yes.
So that's great.
Okay. I have 5 pages.
Oh my goodness.
No, I do not. We're taking a note from Yolanda. Okay. I just we got an update today about the superintendent search, and I just wanted to remind everybody that if you haven't responded to Annette's email about our special board meeting that we have to discuss who we're going to interview, please email her as soon as possible so that can be set up. It just takes time to organize everything. And the dates that were provided were August 25th or 26th, so we can firm that up. And then also, cell phone policy, it has to be done by July 1st of 2026, and we're supposed to include stakeholders' input. So I just want us to put that on our radar, that we start working on that and sending out surveys, and so we're not scrambling and having 3 meetings in June. So, and then I just wanted to thank everybody. I love the graduations, and I didn't get to wish all of our happy retirees a wonderful life and thank them for their service at June. So I just touch on that, and I'll skip the rest of it. Peer pressure here. Okay.
Caved into peer pressure.
It does work a little. Plus the other thing. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Quintero.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Gary Meek. Gary served our district for 32 years at Esperanza High School before his retirement in 2010. He began his career in 1978 with Placentia Unified before Yorba and Placentia merged into one district. Gary was the athletic director, taught history, PE, and coached several sports, as well as gaining several CIF championships in football for Esperanza as well. After retirement, he continued working with our athletic program for several years. His connection to our community through athletics was extensive and a valuable piece of history to our district. We send his deepest condolences to his family and friends, and I know he continued as well to be participate in all sports as well with his grandchildren who also attended PYL, so I know he never really left, so he was here for many years.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn in memory of Gary Meek and a second by Mrs. Blades. Is there any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:02.